Have you noticed your electricity bill creeping up lately? Or maybe you've heard whispers about power grid instability on the news. It's easy to dismiss these as temporary issues, but what if I told you they're symptoms of a much larger, looming problem? A global electricity crisis that most of us are completely unprepared for. And no, this isn't about some distant, far-off future. This is happening right now, and it's accelerating faster than anyone predicted. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this hidden crisis. We'll explore the three massive forces colliding to create a perfect storm for our power grids, why the solutions we have aren't enough, and what this could mean for your daily life sooner than you think. This isn't just about the lights staying on. It's about the very foundation of our modern world. So, what's driving this unprecedented demand for electricity? The first and most obvious driver is the green transition. We're all trying to do the right thing, right? We're electrifying everything. Electric vehicles are replacing gas guzzlers. Heat pumps are replacing natural gas furnaces. Induction stoves are replacing gas ranges. Each of these shifts is a positive step for the climate, but collectively, they place a staggering new burden on our electrical infrastructure. Think about it, a typical home's electricity usage could easily double or even triple as it fully electrifies. Now multiply that by millions of homes, all plugging in their cars at the same time after work, or cranking up their heat pumps during a cold snap. Our current grid wasn't designed for this. It was built for a world of predictable, centralized power generation. This new world is decentralized, intermittent, and incredibly demanding. The shift to EVs alone is monumental. We're not just adding a new appliance. We're essentially adding a second house worth of energy consumption to every garage. And the grid is already straining, but the green transition is only part of the story. The second, and perhaps more explosive, driver of this crisis is the artificial intelligence boom. The rise of AI, especially large language models like the one that might have helped script this video, requires an astronomical amount of computational power. And all that computation happens in massive, sprawling data centers. These data centers are the hidden factories of the 21st century, and they are unbelievably thirsty for electricity. A single data center can consume as much power as a small city. We're not talking about a few new data centers either. We're in the middle of a construction frenzy. Tech giants are in an arms race to build bigger and more powerful AI, and that means building more and more of these energy-guzzling facilities. Analysts are scrambling to keep up with the projections. Just a year ago, they thought data centers would account for a small fraction of new energy demand. Now, some are predicting they could be responsible for half of all new electricity demand in the coming years. This growth is exponential. It is happening so fast that utility companies are openly admitting they can't and build new power plants quickly enough to keep up. They're being forced to delay or deny new connections for factories and housing developments because they simply do and have the power to spare. The AI revolution is running headfirst into the physical limits of our energy infrastructure. The third driver is a bit more subtle, but just as significant: reindustrialization and onshoring. For decades, Western countries moved their manufacturing overseas. But now, due to geopolitical tensions, supply chain vulnerabilities exposed by the pandemic, and a desire for greater economic security, that trend is reversing. Companies are bringing manufacturing back home. This is great news for local economies and jobs, but it adds another massive layer of demand on the grid. Modern factories, especially high-tech ones producing things like semiconductors and batteries, are incredibly energy-intensive. A new microchip fabrication plant can require as much electricity as tens of thousands of homes. So you have this triple whammy: a massive shift to electrify our homes and transport, an explosive, exponential growth in AI data centers, and a strategic push to reindustrialize our economies. Any one of these would be a major challenge for our power grid. But all three are happening at the exact same time. It is a collision of forces creating a demand spike unlike anything we've ever seen in human history. We are effectively trying to build a new economy on top of an old grid, and the cracks are starting to show. So the logical question is, why can't we just build more power plants? Well, we are, but we're facing a whole new set of problems there. The traditional solution, building more fossil fuel plants like natural gas or coal, is becoming increasingly difficult. For one, there are the climate goals. We're trying to move away from these sources, not build more of them. Public opposition and environmental regulations make getting new fossil fuel projects approved a long, expensive, and uncertain process. What about renewables like wind and solar? They're fantastic and getting cheaper all the time, but they come with a major challenge: intermittency. The sun doesn't always shine, and the wind doesn't always blow. This means you need a backup, or what's called firm power, for when renewables aren't generating. Traditionally, that backup has been natural gas. But, as we just discussed, building new gas plants is getting harder. This leads to a paradox. The more we rely on intermittent renewables, the more we need reliable, on-demand backup power. Battery storage is improving, but it is not yet at the scale or cost to back up an entire grid for days on end. This leaves us with one of the most reliable and powerful sources of clean energy we have: nuclear power. Nuclear plants can run 24/7, producing massive amounts of carbon-free electricity regardless of the weather. It seems like the perfect solution, right? Well, in the West, we've largely turned our backs on nuclear for decades. Public fear, political hesitation, and massive construction costs and delays have meant that we re-shutting down old plants faster than we rebuilding new ones. It takes over a decade and billions of dollars to build a large-scale nuclear reactor in countries like the US or in Europe. We just don't have that kind of time. The demand from AI and electrification is happening now, not in 2040. While there's exciting new technology on the horizon, like small modular reactors or SMRs, they are still years away from widespread commercial deployment. We have a solution, but we've effectively tied our own hands from using it at the scale required. So we're in a bind. We need more power, desperately. But our old solutions are undesirable, and our new solutions aren't ready or are facing significant roadblocks. This isn't just a theoretical problem for economists and engineers. This is going to impact everyone. What does this crisis actually look like for you? In the short term, it means higher prices. As demand outstrips supply, the cost of electricity will inevitably go up. Those rising bills are just the beginning. Get ready for more grid instability. This means more frequent calls for energy conservation, like flex alerts asking you to avoid using major appliances during peak hours. It could also mean more rolling blackouts, where utilities are forced to intentionally cut power to certain areas to prevent the entire grid from collapsing. Imagine your power being cut off for a few hours every evening during a summer heatwave. That's a very real possibility in some regions. For businesses, the consequences are even more severe. Imagine a factory being told it can't expand, or a new housing development being put on hold because there isn't enough electricity available. This directly stifles economic growth. The AI boom itself could be throttled. What is the point of designing a powerful new AI chip if there is no power to run the data center it is designed for? We're already seeing tech companies planning their data centers not based on where the talent is, but on where they can secure a reliable, long-term power contract. The availability of electricity is becoming the single biggest limiting factor for technological and economic progress. This isn't fear-mongering, it's the reality utility executives and grid operators are warning about behind closed doors. The system is stretched to its absolute limit. We've enjoyed decades of cheap, reliable power, and we've built our entire society on that assumption. That assumption is no longer valid, so what's the path forward? There's no single magic bullet, but a combination of strategies is needed, and it requires a radical shift in our thinking. First, we need to get serious about building again. That means streamlining the permitting process for all types of energy infrastructure, not just renewables, but also transmission lines, nuclear plants, and natural gas plants that can serve as a bridge fuel. It can't take 10 years to approve a new power line that is critical for bringing wind power from a rural area to a city. Second, we have to have an honest conversation about nuclear power. We need to leverage the existing fleet and invest heavily in the next generation of nuclear technology. The urgency of the situation demands we reevaluate the risks and benefits with a clear head. Third, we need to get smarter about how we use energy. This means investing in energy efficiency, but also developing smart grids that can dynamically manage demand. For example, your EV charger could be programmed to only charge when electricity is cheap and plentiful, or your smart thermostat could slightly pre-cool your house before a peak demand event. And finally, as individuals, we need to become more aware of our own energy consumption. This isn't about going back to the dark ages, but about understanding that electricity is not an infinite resource. Being mindful of when and how we use power can collectively make a huge difference. The coming electricity crisis is one of the biggest challenges of our time, but it's not insurmountable. It's a problem created by progress, by our desire for a cleaner environment, more powerful technology, and a stronger economy. Now, we need that same ingenuity and drive to build an energy system that can power that future. But the time to act is now. We can't afford to be unprepared. Thanks for watching. If you found this video insightful, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to know what's coming. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time.